There is a specific kind of tired that sleep cannot fix. You know the one. It is not the tired that comes from a long day of physical work, where your body aches and your muscles burn, and all you need is a good night's rest. No, this is a different kind of exhaustion entirely. This is the tired that lives somewhere deeper than your body. It settles into your chest, wraps itself around your thoughts, and follows you from morning to night, from waking to sleeping, from one season right into the next. And if you are honest with yourself right now, if you let the noise of your busy life go quiet for just a moment, you would admit that you have been carrying something that was never meant to be carried alone. Maybe it is the pressure of trying to hold your family together when everything around you feels like it is slowly coming apart. Maybe it is the weight of a financial burden that keeps you awake at 3 in the morning, your mind running the same impossible numbers over and over again, as if somehow, this time, they might finally add up. Maybe it is a relationship that has left you raw and uncertain, or a season of grief so heavy that some days just getting out of bed feels like an act of war. Or maybe you cannot even name it. And sometimes, that is the hardest part, isn't it? When you are exhausted and overwhelmed, and you don't even know exactly why, you just know that you are running on empty, and you have been running on empty for a very long time. If that is where you are right now, I want you to hear this, and I want you to really let it sink into that deep, tired place inside of you. You are not weak for feeling this way. You are not a failure. You are not forgotten, and you are not alone. There is something powerful that happens when we finally stop pretending, when we stop performing strength we don't have, when we let down the armor long enough to admit that we are not okay, that we are struggling, that we are scared. Because it is in that honest, vulnerable, aching place that is precisely where God meets us. Not after we have figured everything out, not once we have gotten ourselves together, right in the middle of the mess and the fear and the exhaustion. Right now. Think for a moment about Moses. Here was a man who had been called by God to do something so enormous, so far beyond the reach of any human capability, that even after witnessing miracle after miracle, the parting of seas, fire from heaven, water from stone, he still reached a moment where he fell to his knees and told God he could not go on. He was leading an entire nation through a wilderness. The people were crying out. The burden was crushing. And Moses, this great man of faith, this man who had spoken face to face with the living God, looked up at heaven and said, "I cannot carry this alone. This is too heavy for me." And do you know what God said back to him? God did not rebuke him. God did not tell him to try harder. God said, "I will come down and carry this with you." The burden did not disappear, but Moses was no longer carrying it alone. That is what God does. That is who he is. Not a distant judge, waiting for you to prove yourself worthy of his help. Not a scorekeeper tallying your failures. He is a father, a present, attentive, deeply compassionate father, who sees every burden you are carrying, and whose heart moves toward you, not away from you, in your weakness. And what about David, the man after God's own heart, the warrior king who slew giants? There are psalms in your Bible that were written by a man who was hiding in a cave, running for his life, weeping so hard he soaked his pillow with tears. Read Psalm 22, and you will hear a man crying out, my God, why have you forsaken me?" This is not a man of shallow faith. This is a man who loved God deeply, and still had moments where the darkness felt so complete that he could not see the light. And yet, and here is what I want you to notice, David always came back to trust. In the very same breath that he cried out in anguish, he would lift his voice and say, "But I trust in you, Lord," not because his circumstances had changed, but because he had learned something that you and I are still learning. The peace of God does not wait for the storm to end. It comes into the middle of the storm. It walks across the water of your chaos and says, "Do not be afraid. I am here." We live in a world that rewards the appearance of strength. Social media shows us highlight reels of people who seem to have it all together. Culture tells us to push through, grind harder, sleep less, do more. And quietly, subtly, we begin to believe a devastating lie. That needing help is weakness. That asking God to carry something means we have somehow failed. That a person of real faith should be able to handle whatever comes their way without falling apart. But friend, listen to me closely. That is not faith. That is pride, and pride is a very lonely place to live. Real faith looks like letting go. Real faith looks like opening your hands and saying, God, I do not know how to fix this. I do not have the strength to carry this another day, and I am choosing, right now, in this moment, to trust that you do. That is not weakness. That is the bravest thing a human being can do. Paul understood this. Paul, who was beaten, imprisoned, shipwrecked, abandoned and left for dead, more times than most of us will ever face in a lifetime of comfortable living. Paul wrote these words from a prison cell. I have learned in whatever state I am to be content. Not because nothing was wrong. Everything was wrong. But because he had discovered something that the world cannot give and the world cannot take away. He had found the secret of resting in God's sufficiency. And then he wrote these words that have anchored the souls of millions across 2,000 years of human suffering. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Not through my own willpower, not through positive thinking or sheer determination, through Christ, through the one who lives inside of me and whose strength fills in every gap where my own strength runs out. Where do you feel that gap most deeply right now? Where is it that you have been straining and feeling like you are just barely holding on? Because I want you to know that the gap you feel, that space between what you can do and what needs to be done, that is not a sign that God has abandoned you. That is the very space where grace lives. That is the room you have been making, without even knowing it, for God to step in and show you what He can do, when you finally stop trying to do it all yourself. And then there is Job. Oh, the story of Job is not an easy one. There is no tidy, comfortable way to talk about a man who lost his children, his health, his livelihood, his reputation. Everything he had built and loved and cherished, stripped away in what felt like an instant. His friends sat with him for 7 days in silence, because the pain was too deep for words. And when Job finally spoke, he did not speak politely. He cried out with a rawness and an honesty that makes some people uncomfortable. He demanded to know why. He wrestled with God. He questioned. He agonized. He wept. And God did not strike him down for it. God honored that honest, aching cry. Because God would rather have your real broken heart than your polished performance. He is not looking for a pretty prayer. He is looking for you, the real you in the real middle of whatever real pain you are carrying. And then in the whirlwind, God spoke, not to explain himself, not to give Job a theological breakdown of why bad things happen to good people. He spoke to remind Job of something that the suffering had temporarily obscured, that there is a God, that this God is vast and mighty and good, that his ways are higher than our ways and his thoughts higher than our thoughts, and that even in the darkness, especially in the darkness, he is there. Job emerged from that season not with all his questions answered, but with something far more valuable, an unshakable encounter with the living God. He had seen God with his own eyes, and that changed everything. There is a garden I keep coming back to in my heart. A garden called Gethsemane, where the Son of God himself, fully God and fully human, knelt in the dirt under an olive tree and wept, where his sweat became like drops of blood from the weight of what he was about to face, where the one who had spoken the universe into existence looked up into the darkness and said, Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me. He did not want to suffer. He felt the dread. He felt the weight. He knew what was coming, and he brought all of that, every ounce of it, to his Father in prayer. And then, in one of the most profound moments in all of human history, he added 7 words that hold the power to transform your entire life. Nevertheless, not my will, but yours. That is surrender. That is what it looks like to release the outcome to God. Not passive resignation, not giving up, but an active, costly, deeply trusting choice to believe that God's plan is better than your plan, that His timing is wiser than your timeline, that even when you cannot see what He is doing something. He is always doing something. Behind every closed door, behind every painful silence, behind every season that feels like winter with no end in sight, He is working. He is moving. He is fighting battles in the unseen places that you do not even know exist. Right now, in this very moment, there are things happening on your behalf that you cannot see. Prayers being answered that you have not yet witnessed. Doors being prepared that have not yet opened. Healing being set in motion that has not yet arrived at the surface of your life. God is not slow. God is not sleeping. God is not distracted. He is the same God who parted the Red Sea, who shut the mouths of lions, who raised the dead, and He is working for you right now with that same limitless power and that same faithful love. So what do you do with the anxiety that rises in your chest when you think about everything that is uncertain? What do you do with the fear that whispers in the dark that things will never get better, that you cannot handle this, that you are running out of time? You bring it here. You bring it to this moment, to this prayer, to this altar of surrender inside your own heart. You open your hands and you release it. Not because it is easy, not because you feel peaceful yet, but because you are choosing to trust a God who has never once failed you, even in the moments when it felt like He had. There is a peace that the Bible describes as surpassing all understanding. That phrase has always moved me. Surpassing all understanding. It means this peace does not make logical sense. It does not come after all the problems are solved. It comes before. It comes in the middle. It comes to a person who has no earthly reason to feel peace, and yet inexplicably, impossibly, they feel it anyway, because it is not coming from their circumstances. It is coming from the presence of God Himself, settling over them like a warm light that the darkness simply cannot touch. That peace is available to you, right now, in whatever storm you are standing in. You do not have to wait until things get better. You do not have to earn it. You do not have to be stronger, or more spiritual, or more put together than you are. You just have to be willing to stop running on your own and let Him carry you. So let me pray with you, right here, right now. Let these words be the cry of your heart, if you do not have words of your own. Father, I am tired, and I think you already know that. I think you have been watching me carry this weight, straining under things that were never meant to be mine alone, and your heart has been moving toward me this whole time. So today, right now, I choose to stop. I choose to put it down, the fear, the anxiety, the need to control, the desperate attempt to fix what only you can fix. I open my hands, Father. I open my heart, and I surrender every piece of this to you. Not because I am not scared anymore, but because I trust you more than I trust my fear. I trust that you are good, even when life does not feel good. I trust that you are near, even when I feel alone. I trust that you are working even when I cannot see it. Carry me, Father. Fight for me. Guide me. Hold me in that peace that makes no sense and costs me nothing except my pride. I am yours, and I know that is more than enough. You are going to be okay, not because life is going to become easy, not because every question will be answered and every problem will be resolved, but because the God of the universe is your Father. He is walking with you through every valley, holding your hand through every storm, going ahead of you into every uncertain tomorrow. He sees you. He loves you. He has not forgotten you, not even for a single moment, and He is not done writing your story. The exhaustion you feel right now is not the end of your chapter. It is a turning point. It is the place where your strength ran out so that His could begin. And if there is one thing that every broken, faithful, tear-stained soul in the pages of Scripture has shown us, it is this: the ones who let God carry them, they always find themselves in the end standing on solid ground, stronger than before, softer in all the right places, full of a story that could only have been written by grace. Go now. Go gently. Go knowing that you are held, you are loved, you are never alone, and that the God who holds the stars in his hands is holding you in his. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Matthew 11:28.